Hello everybody and welcome to our monthly SUSE WebTalk. It's great to see that a lot of different countries are more and more attending and that we have a great mixture between our partners and our end users. For those who do not recognize my voice directly, my name is Marijn de Vos and I will be your host of today. We have a lot of things to cover today, as shown here in the next agenda. And it's all about how SUSE Linux can help you to optimize your SAP HANA environment. And the great thing is that I'm not doing this all by myself. I've invited to the SUSE people that hold the closest relationship with the SAP HANA folks. Naji, who joined us, is our Senior Director for Global Business Development and was one of the first people that joined or created the SAP Alliance. And Markus is one of our SAP architects who most of the time develops and talks to the guys from SAP Waldorf HANA Lab. So together we should be able to cover all of your questions, and we have about an hour at this time. We do plan to have a Q&A sessions, let's say in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the session. But if you have a question that cannot wait, please feel free to use the chat window so that I'm able to either directly answer it or put it on hold until Markus or Naji needs to answer the question. Be aware that this presentation will be recorded and I will share it with you afterwards. It's going to take me a couple of days to set it up, but you'll receive the information probably on Monday. So I think that's it for the introduction part. Naji, would you be so kind to kick it off and by telling us more on how SUSE Linux can simplify your SAP HANA?
Thanks, Marijn. Hi, everyone. Today's agenda will focus around SUSE solutions for SAP HANA. I will be talking around the overview of our solution for SAP HANA, and Markus Guertler, our senior architect, will talk more specifically around 3 topics regarding HA automation for SAP HANA System Replication. We'll talk about securing SAP HANA OS and simplified management of SAP HANA OS. So Markus will dive into the technical overview of the solution. I'll start by providing an overview, and then I will close down with some available best practices as well as training for customers and partners. So what do we mean by simplified Linux for SAP in general? Today the topic is SAP HANA, but this applies to SAP NetWeaver based applications. We all know Linux as operating systems become predominantly used in a mission critical application, and SAP is one of these workloads. At the heart, actually, of an operating system, we talk about reliability, scalability, and the fact the operating system is secure. And this is what the core business of any Linux distributor in terms of our open source operating system. What you see here on this chart is an overview of the simplification. So we have been working with SAP since 15 years now. And in the last 10 years, we have been closely looking at a project's opportunity to simplify for partners and customers the utilization of the Linux platform in SAP environments. I'll take some examples from this overview. As the focus is not to go through the product, I'll just pick up a couple of examples. Let's take high availability. Especially in SAP workload, high availability given its mission-critical workload, is systematically raised up by customers. So what we decided working with SAP and SAP partners and customers is actually to include the SUSE open source high availability within the SUSE solution for SAP. So customers, SAP customers do get a built-in high availability. But we didn't just include the product. It's not just adding a product to another product and making a package to SAP customers. We actually did work closely in terms of validation, certification. We did this since many years around the SAP NetWeaver. And a couple of months ago, we did announce our validation of HA for SAP HANA. This would mean also adding additional capability to the HA solution specifically created and developed for SAP environments. We also created a very good set of best practices. Some of these best practices are 150 pages walking, helping our customers and partners a step-by-step approach in terms of setting up any of the HA scenarios. So this is one example. When we talk about simplification, is what we add to Linux in terms of technology and services to make it simpler for customers and partners. On HA, Markus will walk us about the latest announcement we made regarding SAP HANA. Another example I'll pick up from this overview is the installation wizard. Back in 2006, actually, we created jointly with SAP the installation wizard software, and it is we made it part of SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP. And the idea behind it is to provide a guided installation and guided to semi-automated installation for customers and partners of the full software stack. Not only the operating system, but also the SAP Business Suite, whether it's the ERP, the CRM, SAP Business One, as well as the database and the middleware. In this case, whether it's the NetWeaver, any type of database that goes along with it, or the SAP HANA. And this is really nice, done nicely in terms of, the customer or the partner has a choice on whether they want to install normal SLES or they want to install SLES with SAP. And they get additional questions, even without having too many knowledge on Linux. Actually, with a minimal knowledge in IT, anyone could install, knowing the few questions to answer in the installation phase. And it did help to make it faster, of course. If we look at some of the, let's say, Business One HANA, we talk about installation in 20 minutes of the full ERP, HANA, and SLES. In the other cases of the Business Suite, we might talk about an hour or a couple of hours to really reduce a lot of the complexity and make the installation faster. I'll stop here in terms of the simplification. Trying to go to the next page. More specifically, as an overview, when we talk about SAP SUSE solution for SAP HANA, I mean, there are 4 areas we are looking at. SAP HANA has been running since its inception on SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, and we have been collaborating very closely with SAP engineering as well as SAP partners. You all know SAP HANA appliance is delivered by our global hardware vendors such as IBM, Dell, HP, Fujitsu, Hitachi, Cisco, and others. So we have been constantly working with them, and since the last 4 years, over 3,000 customers are running are using SAP HANA on SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, and majority of our partners are preloading the optimized SUSE Linux for SAP applications. One thing, usually when we look in terms of a platform for SAP HANA, of course customers ask about reliability. In terms of SUSE perspective and experience, I mean, we have been the main operating system supported by SAP. There are over 3,000 customers that are running or in process of running SAP HANA. SAP IT themselves, they did actually migrate from NetWeaver to SAP HANA. They are running their internal system on SAP HANA, and we have been working out with them closely to support them in this migration. So SAP IT, with over 60,000 users, are running actually SAP HANA on Linux Enterprise. Now, other area we felt very important to go beyond the operating system for SAP HANA, and we start looking at security. Security has different levels as well as high availability, whether we are talking scale up or scale out. But also the third area is manageability. And it was very important for us and for the team of architects at SUSE to work very closely with partners and SAP to offer solutions as well as best practices in these three different areas. And this is where now Markus will walk us through one by one. Markus?
Thanks, Naji. So we will start with the automation of the SAP HANA System Replication, which is probably one of our most important and competitive advantages we have, and we have released a couple of weeks, a couple of months ago. So you probably are aware of SAP HANA and also the requirement to have SAP HANA databases high available. That's done with the SAP HANA System Replication, and I want to tell you today what you can do to automate this HANA System Replication. So basically all companies with larger IT departments and important business services have SLAs, service level agreements. And these service level agreements are negotiated between the IT departments and the management, senior management of the companies, and they guarantee the delivery of business services, reliable and stable, usually 24/7 and 365 days a year. And this is this guaranteed service availability up to 99.99%, which is less than 10 minutes downtime per year. And as you can think, a major key point here is the availability of the business database, because this is the central point where all the data is stored. And if the database crashes, of course, also the connected application servers are not able to work anymore. Therefore, these database servers are very critical. And usually the availability of database services is increased by having primary and a secondary database which are replicating data between each other. With other database, you might know the term log shipping. With SAP HANA, it's a very similar mechanism. It's called the system replication. And the system replication itself is a manual process. So you have to configure it, you have to establish it once, and then if something fails, some administrator has to switch from the primary to the secondary database. And it's a manual process, and of course this costs a lot of time. And this manual process is basically not possible to hold any service level agreement guarantee, especially not if you have very aggressive guaranteed uptime values, like I mentioned before, the 99.99%. For that, you need an automation for the system replication and failover. And this automation is something we developed together with SAP and also some pilot customers to automate this process to fail over from the primary database node that I mentioned before to the secondary database node automatically. So if you go to the next slide, you will see here an overview how this is working. We are using our high availability technology we are shipping with /4SAP to build that setup. We have our both database nodes, Node 1 and Node 2. Node 1 is the primary HANA database node, and Node 2 is the secondary HANA database node. And between them, we have the system replication. And the system replication, there is I would say, a slight difference maybe to other databases, because the log shipping method they are using can not only be disk log shipping, it can also be memory preload. And this makes a failover very fast if you can really do a switch to the other database very quickly. But it means that the consistent data state is taken from the main memory of the primary node and is then being replicated to the memory of the secondary node. And this automation, this failover automation, is done in a classical high availability cluster, as we have provided it also for SAP NetWeaver. With a active 2-node clusters where both database nodes are configured to run as resources in this cluster. And if one node fails, the other node will take over, and then this switch can seamlessly be done in a couple of seconds, or with larger databases within a couple of minutes. So this here is a concept drawing from the concept up to the reference architecture we developed. What we have here, as I mentioned before, is a 2-node cluster. We have our both HANA database nodes, the primary and secondary node, which are configured to do a system replication. And we have also our cluster communication between the both nodes. These both nodes are exchanging so-called heartbeats. So every time a heartbeat is happening, both cluster nodes know that they are still alive, and as soon as one node fails, one of the cluster heartbeats cannot get through, of course, anymore, and then the second node knows, okay, my primary node is not available anymore, and I have to take over the resources. The configuration as we did it, if you are familiar with our HA solution, is in a master-slave concept. So we have a SAP HANA resource agent. Yeah? Maybe I explain also the term resource agent for you. So resource agent basically is the bridge between an application and the cluster. So the cluster controls the application, and the little program which is then executed to start, stop, or to monitor an application, like the SAP HANA database, is done with a resource agent. And we have this resource agent for the SAP HANA database, and we have a second resource agent which is gathering automatically the SAP HANA configuration topology. So if you go to the next slide, I will show you what we deliver, what you can get from us. So first of all, we have developed the both resource agent I've already mentioned. Furthermore, we have developed a setup guide where you can read through, and it's a detailed step-by-step guide how to set up a HANA system replication together with our high availability cluster, how to configure it, how to debug it, how to monitor it, and of course also with some tricks and tips how to troubleshoot it. And then, of course, to simplify the setup a bit, so simplicity is one of our key points here, is we've also developed a wizard which is called SAP HANA SR Hard Wizard. And with that wizard, it's very simple to configure that HANA system application, because you just have to enter some basic information like the SAP SID, a virtual IP address, and a couple of more parameters, and then you have just a wizard which is creating the cluster configuration for you. And everything, of course, is available on our website for download. We have a promo page here where you can find all those information. You can download there the setup guide, and you will also find there the resource agents. And with that, you are able to start. It's, I think, important to mention that we are still in a kind of a pilot phase. So that means if you are planning to configure that system replication automation, we would ask you to get in touch with us, to contact us, for example, via email, so that we know that you are setting this up. This pilot, or call it also ramp-up phase, means that we are working very closely together with customers to get their feedback. If really everything is working in production smoothly, and if there are any bugs that we can react also very quickly. So the next, and probably also very important competitive advantage we have is the security of the SAP HANA operating system. For SAP HANA, security, of course, is a very important point. Maybe you have read it in the news. There are a lot of attacks going on business services where hackers try to steal data. Yeah, so they're trying to steal user logins, trying to get the passwords, and also trying to get other information like credit card information. And these attacks are increasing, and therefore, of course, also the security and the requirement for the security in the companies that are having these business services is also increasing. And the most critical part in such a business environment, of course, is the database. Because the database is the point where all the data is centrally stored, yeah, all critical information. Usually, those information are stored encrypted, for example, user passwords. But even if somebody is able to access these data in the encrypted tables, they still have it. And if they have the possibility to decrypt it, they will have all the sensitive information. Maybe you are aware of some attacks like it has been announced in the news, like with eBay. They were able to get into the network, to attack the database, and to get all the data out of the database. And the only barrier really to the critical data is data encryption. And of course, this is not what you want. And therefore, the security of such a database is really critical. For SAP HANA, there is already a very good security guide available. It's the SAP HANA Security Guide. You can download from the SAP HANA documentation download page, and this security guide is very detailed, but it only covers everything around SAP HANA. The HANA configuration, the user configuration, access restrictions, data encryption, everything around SAP HANA. And for the operating system, we have a very generic security guide. So SUSE Linux Enterprise Server is already a very secure operating system. You can make it even more secure, but to make it even more secure, we have just generic information that we provide that fits basically to all workloads, not just to databases, but all to all workloads you can imagine, from the web server up to automation applications, middlewares, and also, of course, databases. But there is nothing specific for SAP HANA. And our idea was to fill the gap between the SAP HANA Security Guide and the SUSE generic security guide with a very special guide, which is covering only the SAP HANA operating system topic. And this guide is called Operating System Security Hardening Guide for SAP HANA. And this guide covers mostly 4 topics. The first topic is the security hardening settings for HANA. So what we figured out that hardening of the operating system is a very critical key point. So if companies are doing security audits, usually the auditor is checking the systems with security scanners and also with some manual interaction work, and then they get out security advisories. So they have recommendations, a list of recommendations with settings that have to be tweaked. And what we figured out is that these kind of settings is mostly the same with all security audits. So they always recommend to make the same changes. And we took over a filtered list of these changes from a real security audit from one of our customers, and worked on that together with colleagues from SAP to create a generic list of security hardening settings and to explain them in our guide, and also to explain what you have to configure to reach a certain security level. I will come to that later a bit more in detail and will tell you what we have and maybe also a little overview of the settings we provide there. The second important thing is a local firewall for SAP HANA. As you might know, we have a SUSE firewall which is shipped with our operating system, but this firewall is also very generic and doesn't really fit to the HANA requirements. So we decided to develop a complete new firewall, a local firewall for HANA, which is covering especially the requirements that a local firewall for a business database has. The third thing is a minimal OS package selection. So if you install many packages, of course, you have also a very high chance that you have security holes in your system. Yeah? So you can basically say the less packages you have, also the probability is lower to have then less security holes or some possible security incidents happening on your system. So it's always the goal to reduce the number of files, binary files, especially on your system. And this can be done to reduce the number of installed packages. And we have created a minimal OS package selection which really reduces the amount of packages and therefore also the amount of installed files, binaries, configurations files, and so on to a minimum level so that the number of possible security problems can be kept low. And that's a very interesting side effect, of course. You might have only less security updates you have to install, because less packages also means, of course, less probability to install new patches and updates which are shipped through our update channels. And last but not least, SUSE security updates. So we're talking about an optimized patching and update strategy. It's very important to have your system connected to our update channels and to receive security updates on a regular level, because every time when a new incident is being reported and is known to the public, we fix it immediately, and these bug fixes are then distributed as security patches and updates via our update channels to all the installations we have in the field. So this is a bit more detailed and what we have with security hardening settings. Here we have an example. This is an example for the SSH login via root. So this is a description how to prohibit it. This is just one of 250 settings in total. And this setting explains what you have to do in order to permit the root login or to prohibit it. And what we have for each setting is a description where we describe what the setting is doing and also what the security advantage is. We have a procedure how to set the setting, and we also describe an impact. So what happens if you set this setting? Because each hardening setting you do will also, of course, decrease the comfort of the system administration. Yeah? You will always have some impacts there, and it's important for the system administrators to know what impact they have if they turn or tweak a certain setting. Furthermore, we have prioritized each setting. So we have 3 prioritization levels, high, medium, and low. And with that, you can decide if you want to be very secure, maybe paranoid, then you can have all security settings. You might configure everything which is already at priority level low. You can find some middle ground, which is priority level medium, or you can say, okay, I just want the most important hardening settings. Then you just take the ones with the priority high. And with that, you can also decide yourself how secure do you want to have your system, and also how restrictive you want to set up your operating system. Yeah. And the restrictiveness is a very important point, as I mentioned before, because if you have too much configured and if you set up your system too restrictive, it will be basically also very restricted in the comfort that users have if they log in, or the system administrators if they administrate their system. So this slide here shows an overview of our local firewall for SAP HANA. This firewall, basically, as I mentioned it before, is a complete replacement for the SUSE firewall, especially developed for SAP HANA database systems. And one of the key benefits is that we can configure the security level for each HANA network separately. And this was very important. Here on this slide and this overview, you see 4 networks, which is the user network, the admin network, the distributed systems network, and the backup network. Typical HANA installations even have more networks installed. They have up to 8 and 9 networks. And each network requires certain access rights to certain services. And this fine-grained access control, this can be configured with a local firewall. And another key benefit is that you don't have to configure these fine-grained setting on your corporate firewall. So I think all companies have a corporate firewall which is separating the internal networks from the demilitarized zone networks and also the external networks. And this separation would have to be very fine-grained configured, which is very difficult usually because each time you install a new HANA system, you would also have to change your corporate firewall configuration. Also a bigger organization, it's an organizational issue because security departments are often disconnected from the departments that are setting up the SAP HANA systems. And so it's possible to do that fine-grained configuration locally on the HANA systems. Yeah, with that we come to the minimal OS package elections I mentioned before. So the fewer packages you have, the less security holes you might have in your system. The standard installation of SLES provides around 1,200 packages. And with our minimal OS package election, you come up to 650, 680 packages. This is basically the pattern. We have the installation pattern base plus minimal. Yeah? This is something SAP already supports, but they state in one of the SAP notes, if you want to get certain debugging and also if you have some certain problems, the SAP support might ask you to install a couple of additional packages. And if you install these additional packages upfront already, you come to a number of around 850 packages, which is basically already a very good number, around 40–50% personal packages less than the standard installation has. And now we come to the simplification of the management for the SAP HANA operating system. Yeah. So first of all, why patching? Yeah, patching is a very important thing. I mentioned it before already, especially for the security topic. If you want to get security updates, you have to be connected to our update channels. Yeah? This is probably the most important reason why you have to patch your system on a regular basis. Besides that, of course, stability improvements. Yeah? Operating systems, even if we are open source, but it's like any other commercial software too, we have bugs. And those bugs are sometimes found already if a operating system or software has been released. And those bugs are then reported and being fixed by our development. And these bug fixes are also deployed as patches via our update channels. So if something new is found, it will be fixed immediately. Then we will release our patch via our update channels, and then the customers would get it. But of course, only if the system is really patched on a regular basis. So this might improve the stability. And of course, bugs. Then there's another thing which is important. For example, if you plan to install new hardware or if you plan to extend your existing hardware, then it's very likely that this new hardware doesn't have the proper driver support. And to get this proper driver support, you need updated drivers, and also these updated drivers are shipped via our update channels. And of course, we have also performance improvements that we release from time to time. So if you find some regressions or other things that decrease the performance, or if we also have some got some information how to increase the performance, we might also do smaller changes that will be then also released as patches and will be also distributed through our update channels. So patching is important, and every SAP HANA system should be patched. Patching SUSE Enterprise is of course not the only thing. You have also to patch your SAP HANA database. It's an operating system. I already mentioned that the system should be connected to our update channels. We have several methods here, which I will explain later. But of course also the SAP HANA database. For the database, of course, it's exactly the same. Patches improve the stability and also fix bugs. And these patches should be, of course, also be installed on a regular basis. Usually for SAP HANA you have a maintenance window, and then you install your patches or your patch stacks. And these updates, these can be done with SAP methods. So SAP developed therefore a update manager which is called SUM for SAP HANA. And this software update manager is available with the SL2 set 1.0 from the service pack 2 from the HANA database and above. And it's also possible not just to install whole update stacks. You can also update certain components of the SAP HANA database with single patches or updates. And this is possible just by downloading the patches individually from the SAP Service Marketplace, and if you have a certain problem, you can just fix it very quickly just by installing single patches or updates too. Here we talk about the roles and responsibilities of the SAP HANA database updates and patches. So first of all, it's important to understand why customers that are running SAP HANA databases are responsible for their own system and for the patching and the updates. Yeah? Because we are usually selling our full solution as a typical SUSE Linux enterprise server with an application on top. SAP is always referring to the term appliance. And the term appliance is threaded very differently in the outside world. Some of the customers think, well, no, I have an appliance, I get a black box, and I don't have to do anything anymore, and that's basically wrong. If you get an SAP HANA database, you have a classical server with a classical application running on it, and it's your responsibility to have the newest patches and updates installed. But it's not being done somehow automatically. And therefore, there are different roles. So the hardware partner is responsible for the installation of the hardware and also the installation for the operating system. Then he ships the SAP HANA database to the customer, and from that point on, the whole maintenance, which we call maintenance phase, is then in the responsibility of the customer. And this is also true for the hardware. Yeah? So patching of firmware, the responsibility of the customer, patching the operating system, and also the upgrade of the operating system. And of course also the upgrade of the HANA database. So once you have your SAP HANA database in your network, the first thing the one who is installing configuring the SAP HANA database locally, the first thing he should do is he should connect the SAP HANA database operating system somehow to our update servers. We have several ways. The most easy and convenient way is to connect them to our customer center directly. This is just a configuration process. You need your activation key for that, and if you have entered it, it will automatically try to contact our customer center, gets registered, and from that point in time on, you have the update channels configured on your system, and you are able to patch and to update your system. Of course, this can also go through a firewall or through a proxy server. And the only thing which is important here that these boxes are able to connect to our customer center. Of course, for security reasons and also if you have larger installations, this can be very problematic because you have too many connections to our customer center, or maybe you also want to provide the patches and updates locally for performance reasons. And we have a second possibility, which is called SMT. It's our update proxy. So this means the update proxy just receives all the patches and updates from our customer center. And from there on, they will be locally distributed in your network to all the connected operating system instances. Yeah, in this case, to all HANA servers. This SMT tool, by the way, is free. So if you have an /license acquired, you can also download this SMT, install it, and then you are immediately being able to distribute all the patches and updates. And then beside SMT, we have a much more advanced tool, which is the SUSE Manager. So SUSE Manager is not just a update proxy, it's a complete lifecycle management tool. So with that, you can actively control and monitor the patch status of each system. So the systems were registered to the SUSE Manager instance, and the SUSE Manager can then display which system has which patch level and which patches and updates are missing. And then you are also able centrally on the SUSE Manager to trigger the updates and the patches, so you don't have to log into each server anymore and do everything manually. This can be then centrally triggered and also executed on the SUSE Manager instance. And of course, the SUSE Manager is also able to work behind a firewall. So basically, there can be also a secure HTTPS connection, also via a proxy server, which is then going in the end to our SUSE customer center. And the SUSE Manager has a web interface, so the access and also the usability is very straightforward. You just connect to the web interface from any client PC, log in, and then you basically have control of all registered SUSE Linux Enterprise operating system instances. Yeah, SUSE Manager, as I mentioned before, is a complete lifecycle management tool. Which provides a patch and a package management. It also has features for compliance and security, and it has also features for interoperability. So you cannot just only roll out patches and updates for SLES. It's also possible for other Linux operating systems too. And of course, it's a lifecycle management, so you can really control the instance of the operating system over the whole life cycle of the system. So it's starting with the installation, then the patching, the installation of service packs, and then later on also the monitoring of the system, the monitoring of the patch levels, and also certain automations that are required for the system administration. Yeah, and I think that's it. And with that, I will hand over back to Naji.
Thanks, Markus. Sounds there are already some good interaction on the Q&A session, so please keep on sending your questions there. We'll try to answer them as we go through this webinar, and I know there is a couple of questions later on. Markus will ask him to look at and answer them. A couple of information before a summary and handing off to Marine. There are 3 areas we have also been looking at around SAP environment is private cloud, backup, and training. Let me share with you some available best practices or the third-party solution. The first one is around OpenStack. We all know about the importance of setting up or running a dynamic and flexible private cloud infrastructure. And we have been working with some partners to look into kind of a best practice or a start guide to deploy a private cloud, of course, based on OpenStack infrastructure with SUSE Cloud to run SAP application. This guide is available today. It really walks you through around the setup of SUSE Cloud, which is powered by OpenStack, but also explain how you would prepare and deploy and install SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP application as an image, as well as on top of that is the SAP application, whether it is the main SAP instance or the SAP application server or the SAP database. So it's really good guide available for you today that really bring together the capability of SUSE Cloud, but explained for SAP environments. Another thing available as a white paper from our partner SAP. SAP they do offer very known in terms of backup and disaster recovery. They do have a certified SAP HANA backup solution, SAP system. We have been working very closely with them in terms of testing out their backup solution and disaster recovery in SAP HANA running on SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for SAP application. So it's really a walkthrough the overall solution, but also to explain the setup of the backup system, including some of the restore options using SAP HANA Studio. So we'd recommend also you know, in case this is a topic you want to look at a third-party solution for SAP HANA running on SUSE, something available today to get more inside information about such a third-party solution. And last point is around Linux administration course. We received feedback from SAP customers and partners, especially the SAP professionals, the SAP administrator. They do like, of course, to increase their knowledge in terms of Linux administration. And one of their challenge or the weakness is when they attend a course, it talk about, they learn everything around Linux administration, but as their interest is SAP environment, they end up finishing the course, but realizing they don't know really this specific information regarding Linux for SAP. So they need to do additional research, additional reading to find out what information or to have a better understanding in terms of Linux administration in SAP environments. So what we did with our training services is to put our SUSE architects who are SAP consultant certified, to put them together with our training services, and we reviewed the SUSE Linux administration course, and instead of making it, usually the full course certification course could take up to 8 days, we reduced that into 4 days, as well as included SAP-specific information regarding Linux. Whether it is the availability of HA from SUSE, whether it is the configuration optimization information or any other fine-tuning parameters. So really the course provide an SAP professional in a 4 days period, not only the full Linux administration certification level, but also majority of what they need to know, or at least where they can find the information when it is about SAP workload deployment, whether it is NetWeaver-based or SAP HANA. So this is available. There is a link to the web page if you want to have more information about this. This is available for our customers and partners, and I know that our training services offer, of course, this training for a half price for the partners with the promotion code mentioned on this screen. So it's really a course of a full Linux administration focused on SAP environments. With that, let me summarize. Maybe just to bring some points here. When we talk about simplifying Linux for SAP in general or SAP HANA in specific, it's really about bringing additional capability and services into our solution for SAP and go beyond the general use operating system and go towards more of a custom use for specific environments such as SAP HANA. So you heard us talk mainly around the automated HA regarding SAP HANA System Replication, how you secure the SAP HANA OS, as well as simplify the management of the OS in SAP HANA environments, as well as additional references in terms of best practice training and backup, third-party backup solution. Now, the good things here is all what we talked about are available for you. Okay, so those who want to go read the guide regarding OpenStack deployment in SAP environments, it is available for you to download the full guide. It is available for you to even access the high availability guide for SAP HANA, and further information about other solution available for you for download. So all these, I'm sure Marijn will distribute this later. You can just click and access this information. With that, let me hand over to Marijn.
Yes, thank you, Naji, so much for this great information. And since we're getting close to the end of the presentation time, I do want to leave you with 2 last slides. So first, I wanted to share with you that SUSE is also hosting an end-user study tour for SAP HANA in Walldorf on October 21st. So the purpose for this study tour is to let an end-user, basically what we have learned today within the hour, we're going to take much more time. And we're going to do it face-to-face. We're going to have a discussion with one of the highest ranking experts at that moment for SAP HANA market. So we've already done this setup several times for SAP data center environment, and we often get great feedback from the people that attended these workshops. I must say that the Dutch and the Belgian end users have a big advantage because they are able to join us on the tour bus. So the bus leaves on October 20th from the SUSE office in Alphen aan de Rijn in the Netherlands, and will probably arrive at 6 p.m. in Walldorf. The sponsors of this event will offer everybody a dinner and hopefully a pleasant overnight stay in one of the hotels nearby the HQ from SAP. So the workshop is free of charge and will start around 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, and we hope to be back in the bus at 4 o'clock and we'll leave again towards the Netherlands. If you need any additional information, please drop me an email and I will make sure you get the full details. So the second thing that I want to leave you with is our next SUSE WebTalk. Because of the holiday season here in Europe, we kind of moved this one for HANA to a later date already, but the one for September will take place on the normal first Thursday of the month, and for September that will be September 4. The subject then will be around the best way how to subscribe your SUSE servers. And it's not only that, we also help you think about service credits or how to take additional training, or if your company wants a direct line to our second and third line support, these are typically the subjects that will be dealt with during these sessions. So we're almost done with our 60 minutes. I see it's a really interactive session. I did promise somebody to give some questions. Markus, Naji, you're still there?
Marijn, I suggest there are a couple of questions on the chat, and I know I promised the Tobias and others that Merlin, that maybe Markus can answer better this question. Markus, did you have a chance to look at the questions and maybe you can answer them?
Maybe it's
I had a look on the questions. I will answer them. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Markus, but is it okay if I unmute Tobias so that he can ask his question directly to you? Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
So Tobias, you should be able to hear us and you should be able to speak.
Okay, very nice. Can you hear me?
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I had a question on the automated replication, or actually evaluating the added value of it. in case I would have just a single HANA node and it would crash and come up after that. Do you know which components of HANA are required to run in memory before HANA can be considered operational? And I know that the value of the preloaded tables is that everything is in memory, so then it's available a lot quicker. But if I choose not to do it, my system would crash. Yeah, when would HANA be available? Can you define a time for that, or can you define which components of HANA need to run in memory before the system is up? Is that a clear question?
Markus.
So sorry, I've been dropped off on the line. So it would be nice if you could repeat the question, so sorry about it.
Okay, I will just repeat it. My question was, let me try to shorten it. In case my host crashes, my HANA host, I just have a single host. It comes back on. My question is, which components of HANA are required to run in memory before the HANA database is available for clients, such as application servers or the HANA Database Studio to work with?
Mm-hmm. Just the HANA database itself. So basically it's working like that. The HANA database instances are running at the same time on node 1 and node 2. And then we have the system replication, which is doing the memory preloading. And with memory preloading, the secondary HANA database node already has all the data to be in a consistent state, and the takeover can then be done immediately. So the component that is required to run is just the database.
I hope this answers your question, Tobias. I already muted you again, because otherwise we'll get some additional feedback. Let's take it offline if you need additional information. We also saw a question of Merlin. Is fallback, if fallback is possible without admin in active and active replication? Can you answer that question? Don't know if it's a clear one.
I'm not sure if I understood it correctly. So if the fallback is possible with an active configuration, right?
Probably. Let me try to look him up. Merlin, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I'm asking that the question about the failback. We have active the connections, so failover will occur. But failover, we want to make it failback without user or admin, without administrator. Is it possible or not?
Okay, yeah, that is possible. We generally recommend not to do that. We have a parameter for that, which is called automated register. If you turn this parameter on, the failback to the primary node is possible. But usually we don't recommend to enable this feature because there might be a little chance that you will have a dual primary at the end in some certain circumstances. But technically, it's possible.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Okay. If they need additional information, Merlin, please let me know via email and I will make sure that you get the right information afterwards. I have to be strict. Our time is up. We still can have one question. Can we degrade the patch level? Also questioned from Merlin. Merlin, I'm going to take you back. Are you there, Merlin?
Yeah. This is the question. If you this after the patch update, is it possible to go back?
Did you get the question?
Yeah, like I said before, the fallback is possible. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The 60 minutes is up. If there are no other questions directly, or I wanted to close off this call. I do wanted to thank the presenters, Naji and Markus, today for joining and giving us this information. And you, of course, for joining, and hope to see you all on September 4 for our next SUSE WebTalk. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.